When the Belgians were first adopting the Dingo 2 for their infantry, the proposed rifle platoon structure they had for it was pretty interesting. 5 vehicles, which you don't really see a lot of after the early Cold War. But the real kicker is Belgian squads had both FNC and F2000 rifles for a somewhat silly reason. Note that this video is covering a draft organization from December of 2007, only about a year after the Dingo 2 entered service, so it's likely some of the details weren't finalized and not all material realities were accounted for. If you want a sense of Belgium's recent squad structure and weapons, check out my video on that subject. The platoons we're talking about today were mounted in the Dingo 2 MPPV, a German-made MRAP that's now slated to be replaced by the French Griffin. As it was introduced into Belgian service in 2006, it was influenced by the threats of the time. The Dingo 2 is designed to provide protection against 8kg anti-tank mines, 7.62 AP projectiles beyond 30 meters, 155mm artillery blasts over 20 meters away, and seaborne threats. In this role, the Dingo was equipped with a remotely operated self-defense system, or ROS, in this draft armed uniformly with a 7.62mm machine gun. Of the 156 troop-carrying Dingo 2s procured, only 28 of them were the 50 cal version apparently. The ROS was not stabilized, so firing while moving was limited. The proposed rifle platoon of 2007 consisted of 5 Dingo 2s. While the small details have changed because of new weapons, the platoons are still 5 Dingos with a similar structure. But before we get into that, shout out to the Expeditionary Regiment, the battle order task force most aligned with this video topic and full of my supporters who keep these videos coming. Join up at the links in my description. But anyway, starting at the low level, the Belgian equivalent to a rifle squad is the Fusilier section. In this draft TO&E, each Dingo 2 carried 8 personnel. On foot was the section leader and deputy section leader, who each led a 3-man team. The section leader took Bravo, while the deputy took Alpha because the deputy's team would generally be at the head of formations. Each team further had a marksman and mini-me light machine gunner. Crewing the vehicle was a ROS gunner and driver. The ROS gunner became the vehicle commander when the section leader dismounted. If the section was operating without a vehicle, the driver would join Alpha team while the ROS gunner would join Bravo. In terms of weapons, everyone was armed with the Browning GP and 9mm pistol, which has since been replaced by the 5.7. The Mini-Me guy was also obviously armed with the Mini-Me, what the M249 is derived from, while the marksman and vehicle crew were armed with the FN-FNC assault rifle. The marksmen were also intended to have a Hensoldt Faro Z24 4-power rifle scope. Although note that photos of Belgian soldiers with bare FNCs are more easily found than with optics. From the early 2010s, you started to get more Mini-Me's and FNCs with aim points on them though. While we're on accessories, the Belgian army also used the PAC-4 aiming laser in some capacity. I don't know if it was issued to this type of unit, but I mainly wanted to mention it because with the FNC, their mounting solution was on top of the receiver using a rail adapter, so they weren't really using them at the same time as optics. Little strange. The section leadership, though, were armed with the Bullpup F2000 rifles with its GL1 underbarrel grenade launcher. While the F2000 was not Belgium's standard service rifle, it did have this niche tasking in rifle squads for grenadiers. The fact that the FN-FNC in Belgian service was only able to use traditional rifle grenades meant that the F2000 was just an expedient way to get a modern 40mm UGL in service. Like on the FNC, it's very common to find pictures of sections not using the F2000's optic. Note that this draft TO&E shows every dismount as being theoretically armed with the M72EC, officially the Anti-Fortification, Anti-Armor, Very Short Range. This is specifically noted as the maximum though, and probably overly optimistic. As far as seating and dismount and contact drills, which might come in handy for the one guy doing some Dingo-related LARP in the future, the seating arrangement of the Dingo 2 in Belgian service was 2 seats up front and 2 rows of 3 seats in the back facing towards each other. The front right seat was the section leader station, while the front left was the driver. The vehicle gunner would sit in the center seat of the rearmost row. At least as described in the manual, the deputy section leader would sit in the left seat of the rearmost row looking across to Alpha's Mini-Me gunner, giving both ready access to the left rear door. It'd be mirrored on the opposite side with Alpha's marksman and Bravo's Mini-Me, and Bravo's marksman in the middle seat of the center row facing the ROS gunner. In a react-to-contact drill, the deputy would be the first out on the left, while the alpha marksman is first out on the right. The section leader and driver were the next in the sequence, followed by the mini-me gunners. The Ross gunner and Bravo marksman would be last. In a contact rear scenario, everyone would stack up in front of the dingo, while in a contact front, they'd be behind the vehicle, intuitively. The main difference on a contact to the side would be everyone would have to exit on the non-threat side, so depending on the direction, either the deputy and driver were the first out, or the section leader and marksman. Each infantry platoon had 3 of these sections, with an additional support section providing direct and indirect fire support. The support section was larger at 10 men and was actually split between the platoon leaders and deputy platoon leaders' vehicles, so I'll describe it alongside the platoon HQ. The support section itself consisted of a section leader, 2 snipers, each with an Accuracy International Arctic Warfare bolt-action sniper rifle, 2 medium machine gunners, each with a Mag 58 7.62 machine gun and FNC if they were being task organized as something else, 1 60mm mortar gunner with 1 assistant mortar gunner, and 2 short-range anti-tank gunners. While the manual shows the AT-4 for them in the interim, the actual system procured for this role was the RGW-90AS, and that's what's used in Belgian support sections today. The platoon HQ, meanwhile, consisted of the platoon leader, deputy platoon leader, radio operator, and aide man. Each of the 2 vehicles had a dedicated driver, although only the platoon leaders had a gunner. In the deputy's vehicle, the assistant mortar gunner was also the Ross gunner. This may have been because in Belgian doctrine, generally if the platoon leader dismounts, the deputy stays mounted to lead the vehicles, so they believed double hatting was acceptable in that case. Now, the cross-loading between vehicles was listed in the proposal as follows. In the platoon leader's vehicle, there was the radio operator, the support section leader, 1 sniper, machine gunner, and anti-tank gunner, and their 2-man crew. The deputy's vehicle, meanwhile, had the aide man, 1 sniper, machine gunner, anti-tank gunner, and mortar gunner, and the vehicle crew included the gunner who could act as an assistant mortar gunner in some cases, and the driver. So in total, 5 vehicles and 40 men. Because we're already here and I probably won't make a separate video, here's the organization of a Belgian Piranha Fusilier section with the old weaponry. Those sections had 10 men. On the ground, there was the section leader and 2 3-man teams. Alpha team being the deputy, a grenadier, and mini-me, and Bravo being a marksman, grenadier, and mini-me. The vehicle crew, meanwhile, consisted of an assistant vehicle commander, gunner, and driver. The grenadiers would be armed with the F2000 with its launcher, and the machine gunners with the mini-me, but otherwise, everyone else had an FNC rifle and Browning GP. As with the Dingo sections, the section leader could take command of Bravo team directly, and the assistant vehicle commander could dismount to join Alpha team, making for an 8-man dismount element in some situations. As I said before, you can check out my full video on the modern version of the Piranha Squad and Platoon.